Hello, hello, my lovelies. Welcome back. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It is Monday, and we are going to jump in. We are going to take what we've learned about dividing. We've got long division, we've got estimation, we've got simplifying our fractions. We have so many strategies, and now we are going to divide with decimal dividends. So you guys know the dividend. Here it is. We've got this orange reminding us. A divided by B equals C in this writing form. The dividend is this A, and it's the first one we read. Same thing when we see it written as a fraction, that A over B equals C. A is our dividend, is the one we're going to read first. And even right here, when we are reading it in this bracket form, in the little house as I usually call it, we still read it A divided by B equals C. We always going to read it with the dividend first, even when we write it inside out. So the dividend is always that one you're saying first. That should help us remember. And we're talking about what do we do when we have a decimal number there. So today we're going to start off really straightforward, and we're going to think about it in terms of some money here. So we're going to use the idea of having $1. Here's my $1. And we're going to find out what happens when we split that up. I think you guys are going to feel really comfortable with this. It's going to make sense to you guys. But this is just going to be an example of how some of this work is going to look as we use other numbers. So we're going to start off right away. If I have $1 and I want to divide that by 2. All right, so this is my dividend here, and it has a decimal in it. Let's figure out, you're probably thinking in your head, well, I know what I can add together 2 times to get $1 or 100 cents. But we can look at that. We'll put it in our little house. You might also think about simplifying this fraction of $1 over 2, or 100 cents over 2, really. We can go 100 cents or $1 divided by 2. 2 cannot fit into 1, but it can fit into 10. How many times? 2 can fit into 10 5 times. 2 times 5 equals 10. We'll do a little subtraction. Keep in mind we're putting this decimal right there, right where it is in the dividend. That's going to be the biggest, most important thing that you do when you have decimals in your dividend, is make sure that the decimals line up here. That, I'm going to highlight it. That line is so important. So really we're saying 5/10 multiplied by 2 equals 1. Anyway, we're going to have nothing left, and we're going to bring down our 0. 2 fits into 0 no times. Remember, normally, if we weren't talking about money, you could just leave it at 5/10, but with money, we always go to the hundredths place and put our $. $1 divided into 2 parts is going to be 50 cents. So I'm going to, what color do I want to use? Let's use green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to divide this directly in half here. And how much am I going to have? I'm going to have 50 cents on each side. Oops. So that shows me one example of dividing a decimal into equal parts. And that should feel really comfortable. If you have 50 cents in one hand and 50 cents in the other hand, you've got $1. Now, we can continue doing this. I'm going to erase some of this work. Let's see what that looks like when we take that 50 cents and divide it again. So one way this could be written would be 5/10 divided by 2 equals n. But really, because we're using money, we want to make sure we write it as 50 cents or 50 hundredths divided by 2 equals n dollars or cents, depending on how this looks. So right away, we can either write this in a fraction form, or we can do 50 cents, bloop, bloop, divided by 2. 2 can fit into 0. A good old 0 times. It's just not going to happen. Let's bring our decimal right up. Come on. That's got to stay in that same line always. That is the biggest thing to remember when you have a decimal in your dividend. And you guys have already been doing it. when you use your equivalent decimals, but we just want to keep that reminder. It's always going to go in the same place. Unlike multiplication, there's no counting within your factors or anything like that. It's just going to go in the same place. All right, so now we can say how many times, let's see, went into 0, 0 times. You can do the subtraction if you'd like. Bring down your 5. How many times can 2 fit into 5? 2 can fit into 5. You can count by 2s, 2, 4, 6, blah, blah, blah. Can't go up to 6, so it's going to be 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. Do some subtraction. Remember, this is really 2 tenths multiplied by 2 is 4 tenths, because we can bring that decimal up and down through our whole problem. Anyway, we're going to have 1 left over in our subtraction. Bring down that 0. Ooh, pretty arrow. How many times can 2 fit into 10, or what is truly 1/10, or 10 hundredths? That's going to be 5 hundredths there. Boop, boop, boop. Put our dollar sign, circle our answer. You may have already known that when you have 50 cents and you divide it into equal parts, split that up right there, each one of these will be 25 cents. Bloop, bloop. Bloop, bloop. Bloop, bloop. And one more. Beautiful. So you guys are probably like, yeah, we know. One of the reasons I put it out in these, actually what are fraction bars, is just to help us remember that this is one whole, and that's the whole thing. Here, this 50 cents is 1/2, right? 5 tenths or 50 hundredths is the same as 1/2. That's a benchmark fraction right away. And I just wanted to show you guys this way because you guys have seen these fraction bars before and you've seen them written and split up like this. So I just wanted to show you that when we use decimals, I want to remind you it is the same thing. 25 hundredths or 25 cents is 1/4. All right, it's exactly the same thing. Another thing I'd like to do is review really quickly multiplying to check our work, because one thing I've noticed is we are not always getting this correctly when our dividend has a decimal or when our quotient has a decimal. All right, so remember, we need to multiply the quotient by the divisor. Remember, the way that I like to think of this is we're just going to do this right here, a divided by b equals c. We're going to do it backwards. So we're just going to start with the c multiplied by, if we're going in this direction, c multiplied by b equals a. We're just going to do it backwards. So in this case, the quotient c is 25 cents multiplied by b, our divisor, was 2, and it should equal our dividend, 50 cents. Let's check that. I'll do it like this. 25 multiplied by 2. 5 times 2 equals 10. Carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 2 times 0 is 0. And we have 2 factors of 10 there within our factor. So we have hundredths in this factor and nothing in our other factor. So we're going to have hundredths right here. 50 cents. It's beautiful. I just want to remind you guys to remember to just go backwards with that one. If a divided by b equals c, then c multiplied by b equals a. So just keep that in mind. So this is just exactly what it's going to look like with what we're doing today. And I just want you to keep in mind, even when you start with a decimal, when we're dividing by a whole number, we're still going to get smaller numbers. So just keep that in mind. We're still dividing by whole numbers here. So each little section is going to become smaller and smaller and smaller. So let's erase, clean up our space here. This looks beautiful. So we had one more little fraction bar set up here, and it was really just for us to look a little more deeply into some of this division. So I'm just going to write out one more. And it doesn't exactly follow our pattern here, but we'll just take a look. This last one we're going to take this 25 cents and let's divide it, divide it by 5. So this should feel really comfortable to you guys. Again, what we're seeing here, 25 cents divided by 5, those numbers should feel good. But I want to keep in mind what some of this is going to look like, and I want to emphasize the importance of our place value here. And these zeros is really what I'm talking about, okay? So you guys can always do 25 cents over 5 and simplify, but let's do it like this first. 0 and 25 cents, and we're going to divide by 5. 5 can fit into 0. 0 times 5 is 0. Subtract, it is still 0. We can place our decimal and our quotient. Super important. How many times can 5 fit into 2? 5 can fit into 2 0 times. It's so important, guys. This right here, this is what I'm talking about. We cannot leave that 0 out. All right, we've got to maintain our place value. It can fit in 0 times here. 0 times 5 is 0. We're going to subtract, go like this, 0. We're going to have 2 left, which is really 2/10, because remember we can carry that decimal all the way down in our work. Now we need to drop the 5 down. How many times can 5 fit into 25? 5 can fit into 25. 5 times. Very nice. So this is where we get that view of why this 0 is so important. If I did not place this 0 as a placeholder here, then my answer would have had the 5 right there. And if I multiply 5 by 5/10, that is going to give me 5 times 5 is 25. But look at my place value here. I only have 1 digit behind the decimal, which is actually going to give me 2.5, which if I wrote in money form would be $2.50. So what you would be telling me is that 25 cents divided into 5 groups means that $2.50 would be in each group. So if I had a quarter and I had 5 friends and I wanted to give each friend the same amount of money from my quarter or from my 25 pennies, that each person would get $2.50. No! This is why that place value is so important. So let's look at what happens when we do it properly and we include that placeholder. Then we end up with 5 cents multiplied by 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Ooh, I probably should have done that better. Sorry, guys. Let me be a better example here. 5 times 5 is 25. Write the 5, carry the 2. 5 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. And 5 times 0 is 0. Now, when we double check our factors for place value, we have something to the hundredths and a regular 1 here. So we need to make sure that our product goes to the hundredths place, and this one is correct. This gets us to 25 cents. So super important to maintain this place value. All right, if we did want to look at this really quickly within our fraction bar, we would be dividing each of these 25-cent chunks into 5 pieces. So it's going to look something like this. And each one of these would have 5 cents, right? 5 cents, blah, blah, blah. Continue. Each one would be 5 cents. And we could even count 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Perfect. That would be our quarter, right? So this one would be nickels. This one would be quarters, 2 quarters here, and all the way to 1 whole dollar. So this is a great way to double check our work here. This last one we did is not a benchmark fraction, but if you were curious, It's 1/20th because you would have 20 of these nickels to equal $1. All right, guys, excellent work. Stick with me. You guys are going to do fantastic. And miss you guys. Oh, that's a weird, my heart and my circler. Boop, boop. Adorable. Okay, guys, you can tell I'm getting too bored in quarantine. Okay. I'm gonna end this video, and I hope you guys are having a great time.